hold on, I'm just going back. However, the problem with Urtenagen's studies was that because of recruitment problems, they couldn't conduct a randomized controlled trial. So they were looking at the efficacy of this new treatment provision, but because there was no control group, the benefits and the positive outcomes of the studies could not be given or to the treatment option. So they really had to look at trying to get this type of treatment studied under randomized controlled trials to validate the outcomes of these studies. So we had, from then on, we had a series of these state-of-the-art investigations regarding heroin-assisted treatment in several countries, and these are and it's important to talk about them because they have shaped what is now the status of heroin-assisted treatment in Europe and in the world. So starting with the first study, the real randomized controlled study in Switzerland in 1998 with a small group of 51 problem opiate users, where they looked at over 6 months period. They compared injected diamorphine versus oral methadone. And the outcomes were that between the two groups, those in methadone and those in diamorphine, receiving diamorphine, the retention was equal, but the heroin-assisted treatment group had significant reductions in illicit heroin use, also reductions in crime at follow-up at 6 months after starting this type of treatment. What are the important outcomes of that study? This first study in 1998 was that heroin-assisted treatment could be investigated under a randomized controlled trial design, that this type of new approach was feasible, and also looking at the dosage of heroin or diamorphine that was provided, but also that the outcomes were positive. Then this study was followed by 2 studies in the Netherlands, one looking at efficacy and safety of injectable diamorphine, and another one looking at the same but of inhalable diamorphine. So, but to stick to the injectable one, we saw after 12 months that the retention was higher for the methadone group compared to the heroin-assisted treatment group. However, the percentage of clients in heroin-assisted treatment were greater responders to treatment. Responders was based on a composite score of treatment outcomes, and the percentage of those that responded positively was higher in the HAT group. The important step of this study, this randomized control study, was that they looked at the cost effectiveness, and there was evidence that for this type of subpopulation, heroin-assisted treatment was more cost effective than methadone. And also the design guided the future study designs. Then came Spain in Andalusia, and I think yesterday there was a presentation which went much more into detail, but there they looked at diamorphine versus oral methadone at baseline 3, 6, and 9 months later, with equivalent retention at follow-up between the two groups, a significant reduction in street heroin for the heroin-assisted treatment, but also greater improvement in the addiction severity index scores, and also in HIV risk behavior. An important aspect of this study in Spain for heroin-assisted treatment in general was that first of all, it provided further evidence of the benefits of heroin-assisted treatment for this subgroup, but also it looked for the first time at areas that, like the social and family areas, which were not investigated in the previous ones. And there were also significant gains for that subgroup in regards to social and family aspects. Then came a very large study in Germany, which was conducted in 2007. So this is very recent still, which was a multi-site trial with over 1,000 clients with a 4x2 design, which looked at heroin-assisted treatment versus methadone and two different psychosocial support options. So the design was, in the heroin-assisted treatment, there were two groups, one receiving psychoeducation and one case management, and then there was a second group of two where the methadone clients were also receiving psychoeducation, and the other methadone group was receiving case management. Overall, the different psychosocial support options did not have any significant impact on the outcomes between heroin-assisted treatment and methadone, but the retention was slightly higher, although not significant, for the heroin-assisted group compared to the methadone clients. However, the heroin client had a significant reduction in illicit heroin use, but also importantly, there was no increase in cocaine use after 12 months. Importantly, this study was the first study that actually took objective laboratory tests of illicit heroin use. Previously, illicit heroin use was self-reported by the client. This was the first time that objective tests were conducted. Unfortunately, for these studies, the results were not presented separately. The results of the laboratory tests were not presented separately, so it was hard to make any conclusions with this type of test from those studies. But then came the English study, which is from 2010, so basically from this year. Before I go on, I actually forgot to mention something. There is also the Canadian study, the Naomi study that took place in 2009 and before, which I'm not going to present because just to stick to Europe, but it's very also there. They had positive results. The English study also positive results, and what they actually saw, the important aspect was the speed of onset of the benefits after 2 months, so that the benefits for that group, for the heroin-assisted group, was very rapid. 2 more slides. And so what do these trials actually show? Which impact did they have in the countries? So what we have is different categories of countries, with the first one where, regardless of the results of the studies, we have where diamorphine, basically heroin, is approved as a medicine. So it's for the pain management and for the treatment of heroin dependence. Where we have a second category where countries have changed their narcotic laws in order to allow diamorphine to be provided as a medicine, and for the specific indication of treatment refractory heroin dependence. So we have these countries where now it is a treatment option, a second-line treatment option, is Switzerland, as we know, Germany, the Netherlands, and Denmark. Just very briefly, Switzerland has now 23 heroin-assisted treatment clinics, 2 who are based in prisons, 4 of them are exclusively dedicated to heroin-assisted treatment, and the overall capacity is about 1,500 treatment slots. In the Netherlands, they have about 17 clinics with about 650 patients receiving heroin-assisted treatment on a given day. In Denmark, it's since now, this year, where they have about 3 clinics. Unfortunately, there's still little demand for this type of treatment. In April, they had 25 patients, but at the end of the year, they're going to have about 100 clients. Then there are the third group of countries where diamorphine is only allowed in the context of research trials, like in Spain and Canada. And then we have the countries, which is the rest of the world, where it is not allowed to be prescribed or used in the context of trials. Last slide, the concerns that remain, the scientific evidence which is raised where people or politicians say the scientific evidence is still not robust. We have a series of trials that have actually evidenced the benefits of heroin-assisted treatment. However, improvements have to be made and more investigation in regards to the remission and the reduction of illicit heroin use and social reintegration of this subpopulation, the security and the abuse. A number of trials have looked at the security at local level, and there has been no increase of crime around the clinics. Impact on other treatments, we know from the studies that there is reluctance from drug users to actually access this type of treatment, and many have the intention to move on to methadone treatment. The cost has been shown that it is very expensive, but the cost effectiveness is positive for this subpopulation, especially because there is a reduction in crime and lesser law enforcement involvement. And finally, the safety. Number of trials have shown that there are health problems with this type of treatment, and that 1 out of 6,000 will have sudden onset respiratory depression, which is well below the level of problems with illicit heroin use. However, this just shows that it is important that this type of treatment is conducted with doctors and trained nurses in a very clinical context. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Alessandro, por esta intervención y por esta perspectiva que nos ha dado de cuál es la situación en los países europeos de este tipo de tratamiento.